Hi, welcome back to the revolution and welcome to Leo season. I'm sorry I'm a few days late. I was held up when I missed a connecting flight, which we talked about in the Cancer reading, and then I decided to spend a few days in the desert and read to you out of a book called The Art Instinct. I thought the background of fixed fire geography, being the desert, would be appropriate for what is a breakdown of the 12 traits of works of art, if you can list them at all. It seems that most creativity has 12 basic traits and can be categorized as such. And it was interesting to me that the traits correspond so well with the zodiac. And you'll be able to hear that yourself as I read from one to the next. But the thing to remember as you're listening is that it's a read on you as a sign, whether you want it or not. Each one, as I associate them with you, you'll be able to feel where the read is in there. But we'll talk about each section at the beginning of your videos. For now, before we get to the Art Instinct, is there anything that I would like to share with you? Yeah, I think so. I'm dressed like this because Eid is in August as well. So if you will be celebrating Eid Mubarak in advance. It is Leo season, so it is a season to shine unapologetically. And with that comes a few obstacles and a few bridges we have to be careful not to burn. So let's talk about it. Let's start with Aries. Aries, you're having a great time. And if your love life hasn't quite picked up yet, it's definitely on its way. You're welcoming the fire. But if you're isolating yourself on purpose, it's becoming more and more painful. So please let go of whatever you've learned in Cancer season if you can't embody or manifest it as something positive in your life this next month. It's not worth anything if you can't turn that realization into a positive lesson. If it becomes something that you beat yourself up with, how helpful was it really to know that? So no, not knowing just for knowing's sake, because that turns into a weapon, but knowing because we want to do something with it. We want to take this time of manifestation and we want to create. And everything is set up to help you create. So go for it. Everything starts to move direct. Everything moves into Leo. Taurus, you are either pushing ahead or still laying in bed thinking about somebody that really wasn't worth it. Either way, Leo season lights a fire under you, and I would say that you should get up and get out before your bed starts to burn. Yes, it sucks, but that's what needed to happen. For whatever reason, that's what needed to happen, and you're all going through it, so it should give you a little bit of peace to know that you're not the only one. But it's time to move along. And I know that may sound a bit harsh, but that's what we have to do. Okay, Gemini. Finally, Mercury moves direct and Sagittarius across from you, Jupiter moves direct. So you get to fill up in areas that I think you have purposefully kept empty for a long time. I just did a new podcast episode called The Fountain Eclipse Remix. So it is a merging of two podcast episodes, The Fountain and Concrete Eclipse. And the realizations I've come to as a Gemini about what my love language is and what it is that keeps me attached and what it is that makes me let go. And true to Gemini form, what I have learned, what I have been able to discern from this past eclipse season, has made me realize how much I was keeping my own cups of love abundance empty myself. I just wasn't ready. And this Leo season is just such a beautiful turnaround for us. We have, of course, been through it yet again, because it seems like each twin might have their own karma. So we have been, paying a little bit much karmically, but in a season where everyone else now is going to be writing checks that, they're going to have to pay up on in Virgo season, unlike everybody else, we're kind of done paying our debts, and we're moving into a period of creation, not spending. So we are definitely on the right side of this thing. Stay there. Keep trying not to spend, but don't make it a focus, because that's just going to make you spend more. See it more as, I'm not spending because I'm going to use that money to invest in this or that, which you should put into place now. So by Virgo season, it's running like a machine. Great time to do any of that stuff. You need to put things in play. You need to bring something to market. You need to finish up on something and send it. Do it. Do it, do it, do it. You need something renewed. Do it. As I make a mental note to renew my passport. Okay, Cancer. Well, here we are. How does it feel actually to be probably the most feared season in the zodiac? Like, there was chatter and fear weeks before, and now we're out of it, and still there is this like, ooh, that season was so bad. We're still traumatized. We're still thinking about it, because it is that feeling of, oh my God, I almost drowned, but then I didn't, and now I'm sitting in the sun and everything is great, but like I almost drowned. Right? But once again, I think I need to tell you this at least once a year. Cancer, you can't drown. You can swim. Remember, you don't need to breathe underwater. You are an animal of the tide. But now the tide has gone out and I'm drying out in the sun. Good point. Bury yourself in the sand where it's cool, where it's wet, and where you can take what you learned in your season and live with it a little. Because you don't learn that quick. And you need to take the time before someone turns you into lunch. Your realizations can put you in a place of vulnerability until you're done processing and digesting them. So hide. It's good for you. Okay. Leo. There's so much to talk about. It's your season. What do you do in your own season aside from watching the ego so it doesn't get too far out of control? Live your best life. Let your life become more about living your best life and not so much about romantic partners. Letting yourself focus on you just for the sake of focusing on you. Perhaps understanding that finding love or finding a partner has always been the easy way out, and the much harder thing is to learn to love and live with the self. It is a time of great growth and a deepening of character. You will come out of your season so grateful, as will everyone else, so happy for the abundance and the understanding you've gained. There aren't many negatives, except that people will try to rain on your parade just because. That's the worst part, just because. But you deal with that all the time, so you're going to deal with it a little bit more. Keep it cute, anti-humidity products. If people are going to try to rain on the parade, let's get one step ahead of it, Keep your energy real cute. But of course you will, so. Okay, let's move along. Virgo. So Virgo, darling, well, we're a season away. It's almost time to work. Of course, it's time to have fun, but by the end of the month, you're really going to want to get away from everyone. And you've got so much on your mind, even right now. So much of what you thought you'd already processed and put away is once again resurfacing. Like Mercury retrograde can be so annoying for Virgos, because it's like, why are you making me do the work again? Like, I am a machine. I processed this, I dealt with it, and now it's back, and it seems pointless and it seems like a waste of energy. But sometimes astrologically we have to pass over the same place many times before we can learn the depth of the lesson and move forward. So Virgo, if you find yourself having to learn the same lesson again, then understand that there's something deeper in there that you have yet to process, and that's why you keep coming back to it, and that's why it keeps coming up, because once you do that, it's going to unlock something for you, and you will be able to move forward the way you really want to. But again, remember, you're going to want to move forward towards yourself, just like Leo. You and Leo are going through a time of introspection. You want to be alone and think and figure out. It's like hitting you all at once, like, wait a minute, I don't think I know what I want. Shit, I thought I knew what I wanted. Oh no. So okay, Libra, boy, are you having fun. It's not even your season yet, but y'all don't give a fuck. You guys are just out here like living it up. Be careful how many hearts you break. Be careful about leading people on, but we always have to tell you that. Keep doing your thing. Keep crushing it. Ignore the Scorpios because they're just being really moody, and no, it's not your fault. So don't take that on. Well, don't take it on from anyone. They're just going to be the most moody, but anyone who's not getting their way is being moody. But you're getting your way, and things are moving in your favor, and people are doing what they said they would do, which is like, to a Libra, it's like, yay, okay, now we're talking, so live your best life. Ignore everyone who's obviously not interested in living their best life. Not your problem. Scorpio, so much to unpack, but you guys are like a locked box right now. So it's like you want to be unpacked, but you don't want to give anyone the key, which is fine, because I get it. I don't need the key, but a lot of people in your life might want the key, and they need it more than I do, but they can't get in. I feel like the Scorpio video this time is going to be about like helping whoever's dealing with the Scorpio. Like, I'm going to have to speak for you guys, is how I feel, but I could be wrong. So let's just leave it there. Don't get mad if this in any way like upset the Scorpio code. Trust me, I'm tiptoeing around you guys. Don't get mad. I think that this time around you guys have a lot of feelings bottled up from Cancer season. You don't know how to say them, but you want somebody to say them, but you're not going to say them, and how dare someone ask you to say them. So anyone who's trying to deal with you or understand you is screwed. But I'm gonna take a shot at it, and then you guys can tell me if I'm wrong. So next, from Scorpio we move to Sagittarius. Okay, Sagittarius, your life also begins to move pleasantly forward as Jupiter goes direct and as Mercury goes direct across from you. Well, no, Mercury doesn't go direct across from you, I apologize, but Mercury goes direct, and Gemini starts to feel better, and Gemini is across from you. So you're all feeling a little bit better. But also you're feeling like, hey, now's the moment. I got the fire. I want to make some moves. I want to get, I want to like get into the groove of something. I want to get serious with something. I want to delve. You like this manifestation energy. You want to make something. Think of your life right now as a ceramic wheel, and you can add whatever you want to it. And you can make the basic form in Leo season, and then in Virgo we can refine around the edges and put all the decorations and everything on it. Wonderful. So what color clay do you want? And what shape are we looking at? And what's going to be the usefulness of the form? Is it a vase? Is it a water jar? What, what is it? What is it that you are trying to build into existence and then perfect in Virgo season, and then it lives in Libra season and takes off? That's where you're at. No pressure though. Good. Capricorn, boy, you have no problem living up to what you got people to agree to last month. So you should feel great, but you just went through a period of loneliness and feeling sad, maybe for no reason and kind of isolating yourself, but maybe also not, but you can't figure out which one it was. But now you kind of feel better and want to move on with things. But now you don't understand why you were so super depressed like 2 weeks ago, because it was Cancer season across from you. Hello. I tried to tell you this in your video, and I had the instinct to maybe not put your video out early because you'd need it more at the end of the month. But I was like, no, they'll go back and watch it. And I don't think you have. So go back and watch it. Yeah, it's been weird. Of course it's been weird. You're across from Cancer and everything's been over there just wreaking havoc, and your brain is like not cooperating. Your feelings have not been your friend. They've not been cooperating. They've been giving you all the wrong answers, right? So thank God Leo season is here. Things shift slightly. The bright light comes up off you and you can relax. And what does that mean? That means everything you had to stand in the bright light and admit to or promise or fight for, now you get to practically live up to, and you have no problem doing it. So good for you. Keep on keeping on. Keep your word. Do what you said you were going to do. Everything's fine. Humility is a big part of it though, because if you're not there, Capricorn, it's because you're not admitting to something that you really need to be clear with yourself about, and also with others. Okay, I don't mean to be dismissive, but it's just something that's really obvious that you need to like handle, right? Okay. Aquarius. So Aquarius, there is this also pressure now that's being placed on you because you have the sun across from you, and you've already been going at a pace that's almost terrifying in terms of manifesting. So it's like, how much more can we ramp this up? I only worry about you getting physically ill if you don't listen to the small cues that your body's trying to give you. Because when you're ramped up to such a degree, your body stops giving you the cues. It's like, okay, I'll go along for it. I'll work as hard as you want to work me. So the cues get more and more subtle, but they're much more important to pick up on, because your body's not going to give you 10 cues of I'm really tired. It's going to give you one, because it knows you're not going to listen to 10. So it's going to give you one when you're so tired that you're about to pass out. Same with being hungry. Same with your blood pressure being low. Same with your blood sugar being low. Same with being too stressed out. Same with not sleeping enough. Same with, keeping the wrong hours, right? So for you guys, I would definitely suggest 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. I know it sounds like a weird time to be asleep because that's when all the fun shows and everything are on, but most people stay up halfway through that, but those are the healing hours. So I would suggest making that, your Leo season routine. You want enough sleep to be able to take advantage of everything that's going to come your way. And unfortunately, it really does hinge on rest, because that's what your health hinges on, and that's what your ability to take advantage of all this rests on. So not so romantic and sexy, but and there is like a chance that there is something being resolved romantically here. Maybe not like you guys are getting back together, but you just like feel better about the situation, or the person somehow gives you some closure that isn't really, I'm still in love with you. It's more like, maybe it was never about you. It was about me because I was dealing with something else, or I was in love with somebody else. It's in a way where you feel better, but it's not because there's some romantic something. It's just closure. And then we come to Pisces, and it's kind of short. So here we go. You've been love, family. Now you want to work, and nobody wants to let you work. Now they got all these problems they want you to look at and solve and be a part of, and okay, but I really need to work because this is the time. The magic is now. I feel it. I want to do it. I'm with you. Do it. Love you. See you in the videos. See you in the guided manifestation. So that brings us to the part where you get to watch me, the desert, the mountain, and listen to me reading out of the Art Instinct. I will splice that in now. There will be a link to a guided meditation for Leo season that should help, hopefully, with navigating the ascent. Up we go. And the heat that we will inevitably have to bear, because it's all fun and games now, but by the end of Leo season, things get really hot. And we welcome Virgo's cool, calm nature because we're burning. So keep that all in mind. Have fun listening to the Art Instinct. Hit up the Vimeo for the guided meditation. I promise it's really helpful. You'll like it. And I'll see you in the videos. Happy Leo season. Happy birthday to all the Leos out there. We love you. I love you. Missed you. Okay, we are reading out of the Art Instinct, page 51. Characteristic features found cross-culturally in the arts can be reduced to a list of core items, 12 in the version given below, which define art in terms of a set of cluster criteria. Some of the items single out features of works of art, others qualities of the experience of art. The items on the list are not chosen to suit a preconceived theoretical purpose. To the contrary, these criteria purport to offer a neutral basis for theoretical speculation. The list could be described as inclusive in its manner of referring to the arts across cultures and historical epochs, but it is not for that reason a compromise among competing mutually exclusive positions. It reflects a vast realm of human experience that people have little trouble identifying as artistic. The philosopher David Novitz has remarked that precise formulations and rigorous definitions are of little help in capturing the meaning of art cross-culturally. But even if, as Novitz says, there is no one way to be a work of art, it does not follow that the converse many ways are so hopelessly numerous as to be unspecifiable, even if the domain they refer to is as ragged and multi-layered as that of art. In fact, that they are specifiable, however open to dispute, is required by the very existence of a literature on cross-cultural aesthetics. A reminder, granting the existence of myriad marginal cases by quote-unquote art and arts, I mean artifacts, sculptures, paintings, and decorated objects, such as tools of the human body and scores and texts considered as objects, and performances, dances, music, and the composition and recitation of stories. Sometimes when we talk about art, we focus on acts of creation, sometimes on the objects created. Other times, we refer more to the experience of these objects. Working out these distinctions is a separate task. The list is therefore the signal characteristics of art considered as a universal, cross-cultural category. This is not to claim that anything on my list is unique to art or its experience. Many of these aspects of art are continuous with non-art experiences and capacities, and reminders of these are included in parentheses at the conclusion of each entry. Number 1, direct pleasure. The art object, narrative story, crafted artifact, or visual and oral performance is valued as a source of immediate experiential pleasure in itself, and not essentially for its utility in producing something else that is either useful or pleasurable. The quality of the pleasure of beauty, or aesthetic pleasure as is often so called, derives on analysis from rather different sources. A pure, deeply saturated color can be pleasurable to see. Grasping the detailed coherence of a tightly plotted story can give pleasure, similar to the pleasure of solving a clever crossword puzzle, or grasping a well-informed chess problem. The form and technique of a landscape painting can induce pleasure, but so can the actual misty bluish mountains it portrays. Surprising harmonic modulations and rhythmic acceleration can give intense pleasure in music, and so forth. Of the greatest significance here is the fact that the enjoyment of artistic beauty often derives from multi-layered yet distinguishable pleasures that are experienced either simultaneously or in close proximity to each other. These layered experiences can be most effective when separable pleasures are coherently related to each other or interact with each other, as roughly put in the structural form, colors, and subject matter of a painting, or the music, drama, singing, directed, acting, and sets of an opera. This idea is familiar as the so-called organic unity of artworks, their, quote, unity in diversity. Such aesthetic enjoyment is often said to be for its own sake. This pleasure is called aesthetic pleasure when it is derived from the experience of art, but it is familiar in many other areas of life, such as the pleasure of sport and play, of drinking a cold drink on a hot day, or of watching larks soar or storm clouds thicken. Human beings experience an indefinitely long list of direct non-artistic pleasures, experiences enjoyed for their own sakes. Number 2. If you didn't catch number 1, direct pleasure was obviously about Aries. Number 2, skill and virtuosity. The making of the object or the performance requires and demonstrates the exercise of specialized skills. These skills are learned in an apprentice tradition in some societies, or in others may be picked up by anyone who finds that she or he has a knack for them. Where a skill is acquired by virtually everybody in the culture, such as with communal singing or dancing in some tribes, there still tend to be individuals who stand out by virtue of special talent or mastery. Technical artistic skills are noticed in small-scale societies as well as developed civilizations, and where they are noticed, they are universally admired. The admiration of skill is not just intellectual. Skill exercised by writers, carvers, dancers, potters, composers, painters, pianists, singers, etc. can cause jaws to drop, hair to stand up on the back of the neck, and eyes to flood with tears. The demonstration of skill is one of the most deeply moving and pleasurable aspects of art. High skill is a source of pleasure and admiration in every area of human activity beyond art, perhaps most notably today in sports. Almost every regularized human activity can be turned competitive in order to emphasize the development and admiration of its technical skill aspect. Guinness World Records is full of world champions of the most mundane or whimsical activities. This attests to a universal impulse to turn almost anything human beings can do into an activity admired as much for its virtuosity as for its productive capacity. Excuse me, I'm going to drink something. That says a lot about Taurus, I think. In the season of the creative, number 3, style. Okay, Gemini. Objects and performances in all art forms are made in recognizable styles according to rules of form, composition, or expression. Style provides a stable, predictable, normal background against which artists may create elements of novelty and expressive surprise. A style may derive from a culture or a family or be the invention of an individual. Changes in styles involve changes in style involve borrowing and sudden alteration as well as slow evolution. The rigidity or fluid adaptability of styles can vary as much in non-Western and tribal cultures as in the histories of literate civilizations. Some objects and performances, particularly those involved in sacred rites, can be tightly circumscribed by tradition. Russian icon painting, early European liturgical music, or older styles of Pueblo pottery, while others are open to free, creative, individualistic, interpretive variation, much modern European art or the arts of northern New Guinea. Very few historical art allows no creative departure from established style. In fact, were no variance whatsoever allowed, the status of a stylized activity would be called into question as an art. This is true not only in European traditions. Some writers, particularly in the social sciences, have treated style as a metaphorical prison for artists, determining limits of form and content. Styles, however, by providing artists and their audience with a familiar background, allow for the exercise of artistic freedom, liberating as much as they constrain. Styles can oppress artists. More often, styles set them free. All meaningful human activity above the level of autonomic reflexes is carried out within stylistic framework. Gestures, language use, social courtesies, such as norms of laughter or body distance in personal encounters. Style and culture are virtually coterminous. Okay, that sounds about right, Gemini. And now we move forward from Gemini into Cancer and that cusp of magic in between. Number 4, novelty and creativity. All right, number 4, novelty and creativity. Art is valued and praised for its novelty, creativity, originality, and capacity to surprise its audience. Creativity includes both the attention-grabbing function of art, a major component of its entertainment value, and the artist's perhaps less jolting capacity to explore the deeper possibilities of a medium or theme. Though these kinds of creativity overlap, the Rite of Spring is creative most strikingly in the first sense, Pride and Prejudice in the second. The unpredictability of creative art, its newness, plays against the predictability of conventional style or formal type, sonata, novel, tragedy, and so forth. Creativity and novelty are a locus of individuality or genius in art, referring to that aspect of art that is not governed by rules or routines. Imaginative talent is graded in art according to its ability to display creativity. Creativity is called for and admired in countless other areas of life. We admire creative solutions to problems in dentistry and plumbing as well as the arts. The persistent pursuit of creativity shows itself, for example, in the reluctance of careful writers to use the same word a second time in a sentence, where synonyms are available. The thesaurus exists less for greater precision in writing than for the sake of pleasurable creative variety. So there we have a pretty good read on Cancer moving into a season of doing. Don't worry, I'm going to go through each of these and explain them in the videos. And now we come to representation. And that would be you Leos. In widely varying degrees of naturalism, art objects, including sculptures, paintings, and oral and written narratives, and sometimes even music, represent or imitate real and imaginary experiences of the world. As Aristotle first observed, human beings take an irreducible pleasure in representation. A realistic painting of the folds in a red satin dress, a detailed model of a steam engine, or the tiny plates, silverware, goblets, and lattice crust cherry pie on the dinner table of a dollhouse. But we can also enjoy representation for two other reasons. We can take pleasure in how well a representation is accomplished, and we can take pleasure in the object or scene represented, as in a calendar rendering of a beautiful landscape. The first is about skill, rather than representation as such. The second is reducible to pleasure in the subject matter, rather than representation in itself. Delight in imitation and representation in any medium, including words, may involve the combined impact of all three pleasures. Blueprints, newspaper illustrations, passport photographs, and road maps are equally imitations or representations. The importance of representation extends to every area of life. There's that Leo spotlight. Next up, we have criticism. Okay, Virgo. Wherever artistic forms are found, they exist alongside some kind of critical language of judgment and appreciation, simple or more likely elaborate. This includes the shop talk of art producers, the public discourse of critics, and the evaluative conversation of audiences. Professional criticism, including academic scholarship applied to arts where it is evaluative, is a performance itself and subject to evaluation by its larger audience. Critics routinely criticize each other. There is wide variation across and within cultures with regard to the complexity of criticism. Anthropologists have repeatedly commented on its rudimentary development or near non-existence in small, non-literate societies, even those that produce complicated art. It is generally much more elaborate in the art discourse of literate European and Oriental history. Criticism obviously exists in many spheres of non-aesthetic life with this proviso. A criticism of a kind analogous to art criticism applies only to enterprise, where the potential achievement is complex and open-ended. There is generally no criticism applied to performances in the 100-meter dash. The fastest time wins, no matter how inelegantly. It is only where criteria for success itself are complex or uncertain, in politics or religion, for instance, that critical discourse becomes structurally similar to art criticism. How interesting. That's quite a read, Virgo. I don't know if you guys are smart enough to catch that, I know, but that was quite a read. All right, let's go to Libra. So Libra, special focus. Works of art and artistic performances tend to be bracketed off from ordinary life, made a separate and dramatic focus of experience. In every known culture, art involves what the art theorist Ellen Dissanayake calls making special. A gold curtained stage, a plinth in a museum, spotlights and ornate picture frames, illuminated showcases, book jackets and typography, ceremonial aspects of public concerts and plays, an audience's expensive clothes, the performer's black tie, the presence of the Tsar and his royal box, even the high price of tickets. These and countless other factors can contribute to a sense that the work of art or artistic event is an object of singular attention. To be appreciated is something out of the mundane stream of experience and activity. Framing and presentation, however, are not the only factors that induce a sense of specialness. It is in the nature of art itself to demand particular attention. Although some products with artistic value, for instance wallpaper or mood-inducing music, can be used as background, all cultures know and appreciate special foregrounded art. Special focus and a sense of occasion are also found in religious rites. The pomp of royal ceremonies, political speeches and rallies, advertising and sporting events. Any isolable episode that can be said to possess a recognizable theatrical element shares something in common, however, with almost all art. This would apply to such disparate experiences as presidential inaugurations, World Series games, or roller coaster rides. Very nice. And now we move from Leo. Now we move from Libra to Scorpio. Emotional saturation. In varying degrees, the experience of works of art is shot through with emotion. Emotion in art divides broadly into two kinds, fused or confused in experience, but analytically distinct. First are the emotions provoked or incited by the represented content of art, the pathos of a scene portrayed in a painting, a comic sequence in a play, a vision of death in a poem. These are the normal emotions of life, and as such are the subject of cross-cultural psychological research outside of aesthetics. One taxonomy currently used in empirical psychology names 7 basic emotion types: fear, joy, sadness, anger, disgust, contempt, and surprise. There is a second alternative sense, however, in which emotions are encountered in art. Works of art can be pervaded by a distinct emotional flavor or tone that is different from emotions caused by represented content. The second kind of embodied or expressed emotion is connected to the first, but not necessarily governed by it. It is the emotional tone we might feel in a Chekhov story or a Brahms symphony. It is not generic, a type of emotion, but usually described as unique to the work's emotional contour, its emotional perspective, to cite two common metaphors. Excuse me, I'm going to drink something. Ooh, it's hot here. Come on, desert. Obviously, many ordinary non-art life experiences, falling in love, watching a child take its first steps, listening to a eulogy, seeing an athlete break a world record, having a heated row with a close friend, viewing the grandeur of nature. I think that part might have got to cut off there, and I want you to hear it. Obviously, many ordinary non-art life experiences, falling in love, watching a child take its first steps, listening to a eulogy, seeing an athlete break a world record, having a heated row with a close friend, viewing the grandeur of nature, are also imbued with emotion. Ooh, Scorpio, what a read. Okay, and next we go to Sagittarius. Expressive individuality. The potential to express individual personality is generally latent in art practices, whether or not it is fully achieved. Where a productive activity has a defined output, like double entry bookkeeping or filling teeth, there's little room or no demand for individual expression. Where what counts as achievement in a productive activity is vague and open-ended, as in the arts, the demand for expressive individuality seems inevitably to rise. Even in cultures that produce what might seem to outsiders to be less personalized arts, individuality, as opposed to competent execution, can be a focus of attention and evaluation. The claim that artistic individuality is a Western construct, not found in non-Western and tribal cultures, has been widely accepted and is certainly false. In New Guinea, for example, traditional carvings were unsigned. Now, this is hardly surprising in a non-literate culture of small settlements where social interactions are largely face-to-face. Everyone knows who the most esteemed and talented carvers are and knows their works without marks of authorship. Individual talent and expressive personality is respected in the New Guinea as elsewhere. Any ordinary activity with a creative component, everyday speech, lecturing, home hospitality, laying out the company newsletter, opens the possibility for expressive individuality. The general interest in individuality in ordinary life seems less about the contemplation of expression than about knowing the quality of mind that produced the expression. Ooh, Sagittarius. Yes. Okay, and now we move to Capricorn. Art traditions and institutions. Art objects and performances, as much in small-scale oral cultures as in literate civilizations, are created and to a degree given significance by their place in the history and traditions of their art. As philosopher Gerald Levinson has argued, works of art gain their identity by the ways they are found in historical traditions, in lines of historical precedents. Overlapping this notion are earlier views argued by philosophers Arthur Danto, Terry Diffie, and George Dickey, to the effect that works of art gain meaning by being produced in an art world, in what are essentially socially constructed art institutions. Institutional theorists tend to apply their minds to ready-mades and conceptual art because the interest of such works is close to exhausted by their importance in the historical situation of their production. Such works stand in contrast to other canonical works such as Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, which, although open to extensive historical and institutional analysis, is able to gather for itself a huge and enthusiastic world audience of listeners who know little or nothing of its institutional context. Even a minimal appreciation, on the other hand, of Duchamp's Fountain requires a knowledge of art history, or at least of the contemporary art context. Virtually all organized social activities, medicine, warfare, education, politics, technologies, and sciences, are built up against a backdrop of historical and institutional traditions, customs, and demands. Institutional theory, as promoted in modern aesthetics, can be applied to any human practice whatsoever. And now we come to Aquarius. Intellectual challenge. Works of art tend to be designed to utilize the combined variety of human perceptual and intellectual capacities to the full extent. Indeed, the best works stretch them beyond ordinary limits. The full exercise of mental capacities is in itself a source of aesthetic pleasure. This includes working through a complex plot, putting evidence together to recognize a problem or solution before a character in a story recognizes it, balancing and combining formal and illustrative elements in a complicated painting, and following the transformation of an opening melody recapitulated at the end of a piece of music. The pleasure of meeting intellectual challenges is most obvious in vastly complicated art, such as the experience of War and Peace or Wagner's Ring. But even works that are simple on one level, such as Duchamp's ready-mades, may deny easy explanation and give pleasure in tracing out their complex historical or interpretive dimensions. Games such as chess or Trivial Pursuit, cooking from complicated recipes, home handyman tasks, television quiz programs, video games, or even working out tax returns can offer challenges of exercise and mastery that result in achieved pleasure. That's also very much a read, Aquarius. And now we come to Pisces. Imaginative experience. Finally, and perhaps the most important of all characteristics on this list, objects of art essentially provide an imaginative experience for both producers and audiences. A marble carving may realistically represent an animal, but as a work of sculptural art, blah. Okay, Pisces, imaginative experience. Finally, and perhaps the most important of all characteristics on this list, objects of art essentially provide an imaginative experience for both producers and audiences. Our marble carving may realistically represent an animal, but as a work of sculptural art, it becomes an imaginative object. The same can be said of any story well told, whether mythology or personal history. The costume dance by firelight, with its intense unity of purpose among the performers, possesses an imaginative element quite beyond the group exercise of factory workers. This is what Kant meant by insisting that a work of art is a presentation offered up to an imagination that appreciates it, irrespective of the existence of a represented object. For Kant, works of art are imaginative objects subject to disinterested contemplation. All art in this way happens in a make-believe world. This applies to non-imitative abstract arts as much as to representational arts. Artistic experience takes place in the theater of the imagination. At the mundane level, imagination and problem-solving, planning, hypothesizing, inferring the mental states of others, or merely in daydreaming is virtually coextensive with normal human conscious life. Trying to understand what life was like in ancient Rome is an imaginative act, but so is recalling that I left my car keys in the kitchen. However, the experience of art is notably marked by the manner in which it decouples imagination from practical concern, freeing it, as Kant instructed, from the constraints of logic and rational understanding. Ooh, what a bunch of reads. Oh, there's so much to unpack there. And yet I feel like this gorgeous view, oh, excuse me, and what we've just read says so much. I hope you enjoyed your look at a desert of fixed fire at the height of summer, with a view of a very, very powerful mountain. Love and kisses from Arizona. We get into these videos right away, and at the beginning of each one I'll explain exactly what your section was about. Not that you don't already get it. I loves yous. See you in the video.